Hello everybody, this is Sherry at djsundry.blogspot.com, and I have another quick card to make. I made a similar card, a sympathy card, out of using a sketch recently from Operation Welcome Home, and I'm using the same sketch for this card just because I had a plan for this. I needed to make a birthday card for my brother-in-law. And I'm modifying it a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a minute. For paper, I'm using this kind of flush colored paper from Provo Craft that I have had in my stash for a long time. I actually had it for paper dolls. And then I'm also using the Retro Grunge stash from Tim Holtz. Really like this paper. If you haven't seen this before, it's a 12 by 12 pad, and it has a 12 by 12 sheets of paper, and then each sheet of paper in the 12 by 12 stash is also mimicked into a 6 by 6 piece of paper. It's also mimicked into smaller, about ATC size cards, as well as border strips. And I'm using the smaller size, the 6 by 6 and the border strips on this particular card. So I've cut them apart. Now they're double-sided paper, and I wanted to use the back as well. So let's get going on our card. One last thing that I also want to tell you that I used this Tim Holtz Alterations Texture Trades, and I used the old Jalopy. So let's just get going on it. So let's pull out our sketch first of all, and the sketch shows us that you have a regular A2 size card, and it's 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. So this is the card that I've made, and I've already pre-scored it. I just used craft cardstock from Joann's that I had, and I've already pre-scored it, so I'm just going to crease it down. Then the next part of our sketch says to have two pieces that are 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and a second piece that's 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. But instead what I did is I combined those sizes and did a solid sheet of paper, and I made it 3 3/4 inches tall by 5 inches wide, and this is the piece of paper that made for me. Now hold on just one second. I put away my distress without thinking. So I'm also using the Tim Holtz Distress ink in peeled paint because it's a nice match. And I've done most of my distressing and inking and stamping, but I forgot to distress around the edges of this card. So it'll just take a second to do that. Just distress around the edges lightly with the peeled paint. Distressing just kind of adds that little bit of extra dimension. Okay, so let's go ahead and adhere our solid piece of paper down. Now, remember I combined the size to have one solid sheet of paper because I wanted just to have that nice little break basically between my pattern papers for one thing. So we'll just center that on the card just like so. It's kind of an odd angle for me to see. Okay, so now when I came to my pieces, instead of cutting this one at 2 3/4 inches wide, I actually cut it at 2.5 to allow myself a little extra room so that you could see the margin of the underlying green all the way around it. And then I did the same on the other side. I cut it down by 1/4 inch in width as well, because I want to have about an 1/8 inch margin on top to bottom and on the sides, and then there's a bit of a line between them, about 1/4 inch between the two pieces of pattern paper. I just was going for a little bit different effect this time, and this is going very quickly, as you can see. Okay, so now that's down, and here's that margin in the middle that I was talking about. So this is where I took my old Jalopy texture trade, and I cut this center at 2 5/8 as the pattern said. It's a 2 5/8 inch square, and then I embossed using my Cuttlebug the old Jalopy in the middle. Then I distressed the Jalopy so it would stand out a little bit from the craft, and I also distressed around the edges. You can see I'm using a scrap on the back because it doesn't show. Now I'm actually making 2 of these cards, one for my brother-in-law and the other one to send to Operation Right Home. And this is the one I'm going to send to Operation Right Home. So because it has to travel so much, I want to be really, really careful to get it down with a lot of adhesive because I don't want it to fall apart. You know, I send it to the shipper. The shipper packages it and sends it to the soldiers who go through it, choose the cards that they want, and then they mail them back home. So with all of that going back and forth, it would be really easy for them to lose it. So then I have this other piece of card, craft card, and it's about, I had cut it about 1 inch wide, and then I trimmed it down after I stamped my inches. I'm sorry, after I stamped my sentiment. So that ended up being just about 3/4 of an inch tall by about 3 1/4 inches wide. And then I took 2 stamp sets. I took Birthday from Coffee and Tea by For You and Me by K. Andrew Designs, and Wishes from the Winter Wishes set, and I stamped them again using the peeled paint. And I just want to just kind of center that over there and put it down. Now you notice I also went around the edges with the peeled paint. So there's the front of our card. Now I want to show the one that I did for my brother-in-law because I did make a little bit of a change to that one. On this one, I put Birthday Wishes on foam tape to give it a little bit of extra dimension, and I really like that, but since this is being shipped to Operation Right Home, I didn't want that foam tape because it probably would get destroyed in shipping. So that finishes the outside of our card, and now we just have to finish the inside. So what I did, this is where I took the the flesh colored from Provo Craft, and I took one of the border strippets that come on the bottom, and I cut it out just the width of the border, which is about 3/4 10 inch, and then I cut it at 4 1/4 inches tall. And then I cut this card at 5 1/4 by 4. So I'm sorry, this is 4 inches as well, and then I adhered them together. Then using the same shabby peeled paint, I put Life is Grand, and that's from Positive Thoughts from K. Andrew Designs, and that just will finish off, make it a little easier to write a message on the inside of the card because the craft is kind of dark and you would have to have something like a Sharpie or something, something really dark. Boy, that's good timing, just ran out of that ATG. That's okay, because this was my last little bit. So let's just center that on here, just about like so. Down it goes, and there's the inside of our card. Life is Grand. So there's our Birthday Wishes card. Thanks for watching and have a great day.